Welcome to The Explainer. We are jumping right into a massive, highly debated topic today, one that's been absolutely dominating economic circles and, let's be honest, our own dinner table conversations. We're talking about the potential for a 2026 economic downturn. Economists are arguing over the signals right now, so today we're going to break down exactly what the data and historical patterns are actually telling us. We're keeping it totally objective, strictly facts, and getting right to the point.
Picture this. You wake up tomorrow, you go to grab your morning coffee, check your news feed, and you see this terrifying headline plastered literally everywhere. America has officially entered a recession. It's an incredibly alarming thought, right? At first glance, it just sounds like more dry economic jargon that only really matters to Wall Street or politicians. But almost immediately, your brain goes into overdrive. You start wondering, wait, how's this going to impact the price of my groceries? Is my job secure? What about my savings? What does this mean for my family's future?
All right, part one. The engine slows down. So let's completely strip away all that complicated Wall Street jargon for a second. Simply put, a recession is just a period where overall economic growth shrinks. Businesses start making less money, everyday consumer spending drops, and as a direct result of all that, hiring just comes to a grinding halt. It's a fundamental, painful shift from expanding to contracting.
I think the easiest way to look at this is to imagine the economy as a giant engine. When everything is firing on all cylinders, the engine runs incredibly smoothly. Jobs are everywhere, businesses are growing, and people are spending freely. But when that engine starts losing power, that smooth cycle suddenly sputters into a really painful phase of shrinking investments and heartbreaking layoffs.
Which brings us to number two, the domino effect begins.
What's wild is tracking the exact sequence of events that triggers this huge engine to stall out. It actually all starts with psychology. Step one is just fear and uncertainty. Business owners look at the horizon, they get spooked, and they hesitate on making big decisions. Instead of opening that new store, they just wait. And that hesitation leads straight into step two, hiring freezes. They stop bringing on new people, maybe they cut overtime, and eventually all that caution topples the final, most devastating domino, layoffs. And this pain doesn't just stay isolated, it multiplies across major sectors all at once. We're talking technology companies, retail stores, construction firms, manufacturers, and financial institutions all pulling back at the exact same time. As unemployment creeps up, everyday families are Berkeley forced into survival mode. Those planned summer vacations get completely canceled, big purchases are pushed off, and suddenly grabbing dinner at a restaurant goes from a casual weekly routine to a really rare luxury.
Let's move on to part three, markets, housing, and businesses.
Here is a universal truth. Investors absolutely despise uncertainty. If they even just suspect that company profits are going to decline, stock prices fall fast. Imagine opening your retirement app on a Tuesday morning and seeing a 20 or 25% drop staring right back at you. Ouch. Even if you haven't permanently lost that money yet, seeing those numbers completely tank is emotionally devastating. It sparks panic selling, and unfortunately that panic selling usually just drags the whole market down even further.
Okay, let's all just take a deep breath for a second here and talk about housing. Because whenever people even whisper the word recession, everyone immediately panics and assumes we're heading for a repeat of 2008. But we need to separate the fear of a massive systemic collapse and high foreclosures from the actual projected reality of a 2026 downturn. The fundamentals today are entirely different. Yes, if unemployment rises, fewer people qualify for mortgages, so demand definitely weakens. But instead of the entire housing market completely imploding, the data actually points to much slower home sales and some localized downward pressure on prices. It's a slowdown, not a crash.
Meanwhile, down on Main Street, businesses feel the impact very differently depending on their size. Small businesses, like your favorite local coffee shop or that family-owned gym down the street, they just don't have the vast financial safety nets to survive a sudden, steep drop in daily sales. It puts them at a super high risk of closing their doors for good. Large corporations, on the other hand, they generally have the massive resources needed to adapt by shuffling things around, restructuring, and freezing new hires.
All right, section 4. The consumer cycle.
Here's the thing you have to remember. The American economy essentially rests on the daily choices made by you, the consumer. It operates in this continuous loop. Consumers spend money, which lets businesses earn revenue. Businesses then use that revenue to hire workers, and those workers get paid, turning them right back into consumers. But when people get cautious, when we start saving more and putting off buying a new car or replacing the couch, this entire cycle gets weaker. Even folks with incredibly stable jobs pull back because they just don't know what's coming next, and that collective caution is exactly what deepens a recession.
But, and this is a pretty crazy plot twist in the data, not every industry suffers. Some actually thrive during a downturn as our habits shift. Discount retailers often see a massive boom as shoppers actively hunt down cheaper options. Repair services become incredibly popular because, people decide to just fix the old washing machine instead of dropping cash on a brand new one. And essential industries like healthcare, they stay rock solid because people are always going to prioritize their medical care no matter what the broader economy is doing. It's really fascinating to see how human behavior adapts when the pressure is on.
Which leads us to part 5, the road to recovery. So, if things really take a hit in 2026, the Federal Reserve is very likely going to step in. And that prompts a massive question. Why do they almost always choose to lower interest rates as their primary weapon against a recession?
Well, it's not arbitrary. It's a super deliberate tool. Step 1 is simply making loans cheaper. The whole idea here is that cheaper borrowing will encourage businesses to confidently invest in their growth again and make consumers feel comfortable financing big-ticket items. But, and the sources make this very clear, this is a slow, methodical grind. It is absolutely not an instant magic fix. True recovery requires a lot of patience.
Taking a step back, history gives us a really reassuring reality check. While recessions are incredibly painful and create just an awful lot of uncertainty, they are always temporary. Economic cycles go up and down. It's what they do. Booms are naturally followed by slowdowns, and those slowdowns are always, eventually, followed by recoveries. Businesses figure out how to adjust, consumer confidence slowly returns, and the economy inevitably moves forward again.
So what is the ultimate takeaway from this explainer? Honestly, the real issue isn't whether a 2026 recession will happen. History already tells us that economic slowdowns are just a certainty at some point. The real question is, how prepared are you, your family, and your business to actually handle it? Because deeply understanding the data we just walked through, that is exactly what makes the difference between widespread panic and navigating whatever comes next with genuine confidence. Thank you so much for hanging out with me to explore this. Keep learning, keep preparing, and I'll catch you next time on The Explainer.